Hi, DJ. You got me all giddy because I know that these tagging videos have been going on for quite a long time and no one has ever tagged me. So, the first fact is that I am enormously honored, DJ, that you ad won't be included in the five facts. But here are five facts that you wouldn't know about me if you watch my videos, even on this Lift Aloft channel or the Baseball Geek channel, more likely than not. And the first one is that most people, it's on my channel, it indicates that I'm an attorney, but I first intended on being a pediatrician. And you can hear my son coughing in the background. He's sleeping, but he's got a little bit of a cough, so maybe I should have gone that route. Could have helped him out. He's okay. And I actually went so far as to be a certified EMT. I was a biomedical sciences major for my first 2 years, or year and a half, maybe a year and a quarter of college, and switched to biology. And then in the middle of my junior year, I was to take a physics midterm. It was physics 1, and it was the first midterm. And I just got the feeling, this was just after I took my EMT course, and realized that I could deal with blood and guts and all that stuff. I had difficulty dealing with the death of people and the emotional level of it. I couldn't put that screen. And I learned that when in EMT training, when you do that, at least in California, you do some volunteer time. And a part of my volunteer time on an ambulance involved just simple stuff, which would be transporting, for instance, older people from one convalescent home to another. And we were transporting one gal, and the paramedic who was riding with me says, "She's a no code. You know what that means, right?" And I thought I knew what that was. And I did know, actually, but I asked for clarification, and he told me, well, if she goes, we do nothing about it. And she was catatonic, and probably in her early 80s maybe, but pretty messed up, catatonic, just staring in the ceiling of the ambulance. And when when he said that we do nothing, she started to moan even more so. And I thought, how callous was that he did it right in front of her and talked about the fact that it was her husband who signed the no-code order. And she didn't seem very happy about that. And I thought, you really have to get some callous level, and I just didn't have it. So I was discouraged, and at the time of that first physics midterm, I went to the office and I got a withdrawal, and I was out of that class, and I was done and resolved to be an English major. So that's a story. I intended on being a pediatrician that began with my brother when I was about 6, maybe close to 7. And he got a serious disease associated with E. coli. It was hemolytic uremic syndrome, which I think the Jack in a Box, there was a Jack in a Box scare. It usually involves E. coli poisoning, I think. And it was like at that point, this pediatrician saved my brother's life. And I thought that's what I wanted to do, and it didn't end up happening. Number 2 fact. I met the woman that I married when I was in 8th grade. And it's kind of a fun story. In my junior high school, we were able to choose a primary class. It was an elective. We'd choose an elective. We'd choose a first option or a second option. So, me being a 13-year-old at the time, looking for the easiest things for me, one was reading for pleasure, which was kind of like the cakewalk class of the school, and I love to read. And the second one was computer programming. I love computer stuff. So I thought, that'll be awesome. I get my schedule, and it says exploratory French and Spanish. Now here I was looking for a cakewalk class, and it's like I'm going to be learning not one language, but we're studying 2. And but if it wasn't for that class, it was that fate thing. It was that God had selected a soulmate for me very, very early, and there she was. And I asked her to go study with me accidentally on the phone. That's another story. Somebody might be curious how that happened, but I just will say it was December 9th, 1983. And we were married on July 30th. I think I got that right. I better have gotten that right. It was July 30th, 1994. And we've been married ever since, very happily. and now have a 2.5-year-old, and just going really strong. But I met her when I was in 8th grade. She was in 9th, by the way. She was robbing the cradle. Number 3 is that I've been married for 15 years, so I sort of revealed that already, but that we had infertility issues. My wife has had various surgeries. I've had to go to the doctor, do various things in a cup, which I got to tell you, I don't wish on anybody. Incredibly unpleasant experience. But we did in vitro, which is also an incredibly unpleasant experience because for folks that have never done it before and are considering it, I would definitely encourage you to participate in it if it looks like that's the only chance you would have of having children of your genetics. And we tried it essentially 2.5 times, and they didn't take. But the process, well, it involves needles, and it involved me actually sticking the needles in my wife, which was easy at first because it was like, I think it was Lupron shots. I forget what exactly we did, but it was only like, the needles were like that big. And next to those, when they first were training me on an orange, there were these like 2-inch ones, real big needles, and I go, whew, at least we don't have to do that. But I was too afraid to ask if I'd ever have to do that, and it turned out like 2 weeks later, or a week and a half later, week later, I had to use that, and that was real tough. I gotta tell you, because the stuff that I had to inject, which was progesterone, we had I guess there's a British kind, American kind. The British kind, I think I've got that correct, was really thick, and that's all they had. This was like maple syrup, and like taking a syringe and having to poke it in there, and then like push real hard, and she was crying. It was a terrible experience. I think they have different methods now. This was like 10 years ago. But anyway, we resolved to, we took a big break after the 2.5 one. It was a half because we had some frozen embryos that we inserted all of them because Marie was given medication, my wife, for a certain period of time that was supposed to induce the egg follicles for more of them, and the doctor couldn't find any. So we used the frozen embryos that we had, and none of those took. So we went with adoption, and here is a photo of young little AJ, and you've probably seen him in a few of the videos that I've done. And he's just a complete blessing, and we couldn't be happier. Anyway, enough about that. Number 4, I collect baseball cards, and I have easily over 100,000 cards with my, and it's not only baseball cards, there's some other sports, because my favorite 2 cards are a 1986 PSA 8. It's graded 8 out of 10, 10 being like the perfect gem mint card in PSA, and I have an 8 of Michael Jordan, and it's just an awesome card. I have a poor condition graded PSA 3, which is actually considered very good, but that's 3 out of 10, so it's not that good. I have Jackie Robinson from 1948 Leaf, and Jackie Robinson's one of my heroes, so that is probably the favorite card in my collection, even though it's real lousy condition. Number 5, and this sort of goes with adoption too, is I have a sister in England who is older than me, I think by 5 or 6 years, and she was born when my dad was like 16 or 17, and she was given up for adoption. And I didn't find out about her existence until I took a trip to England with one of my brothers, who we were told, given the story for the first time, that we had a sister who had been adopted, and I think it was because we were traveling there that my parents felt that there was a risk that we would hear about it, and then it would be better coming from them, and certainly it was. But she's wonderful. We've met her. We actually connected with her. My dad searched for her, couldn't find her, and she was able to find him. And if I'm able to, I'll put a picture right here of her with my brothers and my dad, and just love her to death. And it's sad that I haven't known her for longer. We met her in late 2000, and she's been out here in California, Palm Springs, a few times. I recently went to England to see her for the first time. Unfortunately, it was not a good experience because her 26-year-old son died. That's a lot of facts about me. But thank you, TJ, for the request. And let me see. I'm going to pause here to decide who I'm going to tag. Okay, went through my subscriber list, and I'm gonna tag Stand Fast in the Faith, Steve, you're it, budmaninchrist, and Lanark 8 will tag your it. 5 facts.